Well, we had our Bible camp this past week, and I think it was a great event. I was in charge of games for the kiddos. And being in charge of games, we had a lot of fun. We played golf one day, putt-putt golf one day. We had an obstacle course one day. We had a cornhole competition or beanbag toss from you from the north. And I think the crowning achievement was our football accuracy throwing competition. It kind of brought back memories, you see. When I was 5 years old, had one dream, and that dream was to be a linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. And I know many of you think, well, that's a pretty unattainable dream, Father Cody. Well, if you knew how the Saints were playing back in the late 80s and the early 90s, you know that wasn't that unattainable back then. But as my body developed and I knew that I would only really be about 5'8", 5'9", with short arms and short legs, that probably becoming a professional football player wasn't really in my destiny, right? I think hopefully I've chosen wisely in that destiny, in that future. But I think that's something that we all have to struggle with, that American dream, right? If you have a dream and you work hard enough and you try to achieve it, you can do whatever you want. And the truth is that's not totally true, right? Sometimes our natural gifts and the circumstances of our lives make it to where we'll never be a linebacker for the New Orleans Saints, or we'll never be president of the United States, or we'll never be this or this or this, whatever that 5-year-old dream is. It doesn't mean that God isn't blessing us. It doesn't mean God doesn't have a desire for us. But we have to admit sometimes that our natural talents and gifts disqualify us for certain positions. In our gospel today, though, we see some very unlikely candidates for certain positions, right? We have a guy that Jesus sending out these 12 guys. These 12 guys mostly are made up of fishermen. One's a tax collector who cheated people out of money all the time. One's a zealot, meaning he's one of the political outcasts. And then we have a couple guys who don't even know what they did. But let's just say they weren't philosophers. Let's just say they weren't professional speakers. Let's just say they weren't real good teachers, right? They didn't have the qualifications to be doing what they did. But God formed them. Jesus Christ was with them, and he trained them, and he formed them. And then he sent them out. All the time, I think Catholics tend to struggle with not coming to church or prayer or different things. Most Catholics tend to struggle with preaching the faith. Most Catholics tend to struggle with sharing their own story, their own lives of faith with other people. And I think we have to remember that we don't have to have those special gifts for that, right? We don't have to be 6'3" with long arms and a good wingspan and be able to run a 4.40, or we don't have to have a 4.0 GPA and have all these sterling recommendations from different people and different professors. We don't have to have any of that. We have to have faith. We have to believe, and we have to be willing to enter into formation. But most importantly, we have to have the courage to receive the call. People think, well, I don't want to heal people, or I don't want to cast out demons, or I don't think I can ever do that. But we have to look into our bulletin today and see our seminarian / bookkeeper / secretary in his words, which he alludes to and implies that sometimes we don't cast out demons and heal people like we think we're doing. Sharing the faith does that. Sharing the faith gives them the tool to be able to get rid of the demons in their own lives, gives them the tool to be able to heal themselves by allowing Jesus Christ to come into their lives, allowing Jesus Christ to heal them and cast them out. Our job is just to preach. Our job is just to share. Our job is just to accept the invitation. But if all we do is say, well, that's for somebody else, or I'm not qualified to do that, then we miss out on an important opportunity. Jesus Christ is calling us to go out. Are we ready to do that? Do we have the courage to say yes to that? Or are we just going to be here and say, well, that's somebody else's job. Let's let the Baptists and the Pentecostals do that. No, we're Christians too. We're called to do that too. We believe in the same gospel that we just heard just as much as they are. And if we're not willing to do that, we're not willing to really hand on this Christian faith. That's what Jesus asked us to do, to hand it on. As we come to the table of the Lord, let us have that courage. Let us ask for that courage to be able to continue to be witnesses to this world, witnesses of the good news that Jesus Christ came to heal, came to cast out demons.